So yesterday I was telling my buddy I hadn't worked on my car in a while. You know, just been driving. It's been doing pretty good. And then today it eats the alternator belt. Now I've been limping this alternator belt along, but that's what I get for opening my dumb fucking mouth. Occasionally the belt would squeak really bad, and I wouldn't do anything about it, or I would like power cycle the car and it would turn off and on and then come back. But really the belt's gotten hard. Like, I don't know if you've never really felt an alternator belt. They have like a certain feel to them. They have like resistance, and when they start getting old, or if you buy a cheap belt, this is the same belt, okay? And you can just see the difference. I mean, this one's made in China, but if you rub your thumb along it, there's like a certain type of resistance it has. Like, there's a softness to it, and this belt does not have it on the outside or the inside. This is the belt I put on my white Neon when it threw the alternator belt and left me stranded like 2 hours from home. Luckily this time I was only 20 minutes away. Now I did have to drive home with no charging, and it was dark, so I had my headlights on. So I made it about 20 minutes, and as soon as the belt kicked off, the voltage dropped to 11.7 or 11.4, I think. And then I turned my radio off, turned the dash lights down, unplugged my little phone charger thing, and drove home. And I had to drive home about 8 or 9 miles. And the time I was getting close to home, I looked down and I was like, ooh, the radio turned off, which means it was under 10 volts. And then I got to like the top of the hill, I would turn my turn signal on, and the turn signal didn't flash. And I was like, huh, that sucks. That's weird. And as soon as I had to stop, I come to a stop, and then I let the clutch out, and the car started to like buck and stutter and do all that weird stuff that cars do when they start losing voltage. So I turned the headlights off, and the car turned on. Like, the dash started dinging at me and everything, and I was like, well, that was super weird. So anyway, I made it home. I pulled up in front of the house and turned the car off, and I was like, well, I'm just going to go back to bed, wait until stores open. And then I've had an entire day where I didn't do anything to the car, and now it's almost nighttime. It's winter time. It's 4:53, so I'm going to lose the sun here in like 10 minutes. But anyway, I bought a Harbor Freight battery charger because this battery keeps dying. So, well, it's not like dying, but it's old. It's long in the tooth. I think it had a 2018 sticker on it at one point. So for an old school diehard silver, it's pretty old. So I'm thinking about trying that thing where you know, old men used to do the shit back in the day, where you pop the caps off, fill it with distilled water, and then just boil the battery. Just put it on turbo boil and see if it comes back to life. You gotta like desulfate the battery. So I might give that a shot. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and start taking this apart. Pretty blown away, it didn't stutter and act up. Okay, cool, it's getting dark, so that's awful. So focus. So right there's the top bolt for the alternator, and then there's the tensioning bolt. And as you just got to crack loose the one on the bottom, and run this one out. And like I've done this a million times. So let's see, I got the belt. I got the belt on the crank pulley, wrapped up and around onto the alternator. I broke my old school full of rusty water stock and original overflow bottle, so I I don't know. I gotta find something I can stuff in there for now so I don't lose all my coolant. But I really need to do a full flush on this, including the heater core. But for now, I'm just gonna tighten this up again. I gotta tighten the bottom bolt on this because I tightened it up off camera, and then I'll be good to go. Yeah, everything I found online, because I have an underdrive pulley on this, everything I found says to run the 30.5-inch belt. I get the 31-inch belt, and it's like exponentially cheaper. So anyway, I'm gonna tighten that up. Alright, so a minute ago I had this running, and then I realized that the alternator was not pointing in the right direction. So it is now, but I'm trying to show what was happening. Oh, that'll work. So instead of the alternator being straight up and down, it was kicked off to the side a little bit. And yes, it turns out that the last time that I messed with this to tighten the belt up, I loosened the bottom belt, and the bottom of the alternator has an insert, and when you tighten it, it like shifts it this way. So I didn't have it tight enough, and it pushed the bottom of the alternator in, which left the top in the same spot, so it kicked it over off that way a little bit. And actually, anyway, right down in there, you can see like the edge of the belt was getting chewed up, and that's it's because the alternator was not facing in the correct direction. So now that I've fixed it, the alternator is now lined up with the belt. This is hopefully going to go much better this time around, because it was like clicking inside. So, all right, so a minute ago this didn't want to start, so I'm just trying to light up the gauges so you can see something. There we go. That's the, yeah, my oh man, the ghost of my past are coming to haunt me. But I don't really know who like comes back and watches the same videos and shit on this, so like I have no clue. But when I put this car together over the summer, I said I bought a new throwout bearing because I threw out my old throwout bearing, and I said somebody broke the tabs off of this and returned it, and I was like, it's probably fine. And it rattles like crazy. Imagine that. Weird, right? Like super strange. Entirely unhinged. I would never have expected that. So, you know, that I did this to me. So at some point I'm going to have to probably pull the transmission and just change the throwout bearing. It's crazy. I'm looking like at my camera at like a 30-degree angle and it can see me. Anyway, my alternator's dying off. It was working fine the other day. Now it's not. It threw a belt, it left me stranded. I made a video, I started making a video about it, and then it was still making noise, and I was like, alright, cool, I gotta replace it anyway, so here I am. My garage is still full of junk, so I can't really get into it. So what I'm gonna do is just do it here out front of my house next to the road. So let's get started. To do an alternator on a Neon, you only need a 15 and a 13 and a 10. And luckily, if you've seen any of my shorts, 10mm gods have paid me a couple visits, so that's cool. I just have a bolt in my positive battery terminal holding it together. There's a lot of stuff here. This battery is also pretty old, and I'm amazed it's still kicking, which now that I've said it out loud means that it's going to strand me unceremoniously somewhere. But I got to get something I can spray on this to neutralize all that acid. So, as some of you may know, and some of you probably don't know, the Neon alternator is behind the engine on the backside, unless you've done something fancy with your life and you relocated it up front, which that isn't as popular as it used to be. Usually there's a power steering reservoir and all sorts of crap over top of this, but I removed all of that because I don't know. I made that decision when I was 22. So It was year of 2009, maybe 2010, I don't know. At the time, I simply thought that having power steering and air conditioning was just too confusing. And it turns out that was one of my symptoms of having ADHD. Thought of just putting something back the way it came was too hard, you know. So anyway, a million years later, me being a little bit older, I don't resent that kid, but I do wish that he had been diagnosed. Because it would have made my current life a lot easier. Oh, I gotta loosen the bottom bolt. This is truly annoying. Fucking microphone wasn't turned on, but I want to remove this piece, which is what catches the bolt for the bottom of the alternator. And apparently I'd galled all of these threads up. I'm not sure what size this is, so I'll probably have to make a trip to Home Depot while I'm going to get my alternator so I can place it. And yeah, the threads on the nut, the capture nut, seem okay. Just I rolled over all of the threads on the alternator bottom bolts. So I removed the bracket off of the block instead of just removing just the alternator. Now I got to get this out. So I think I'm just going to hit this with a hammer and it'll push this insert over and I'll get it out. Oh, I just caught it, but the alternator it was just locked up. Holy crap. Wow, yeah, that wasn't going to last me much longer. Or I would have been mad if it did. Yeah, I'd taken off the alternator mount that goes on the block because I couldn't get the through bolt out because that one thing was stripped. The M10 by 1.5, and I bought a 100 length one. Yeah, 100 millimeter length one. Ooh, man, I'm glad that didn't break my window. I can't do nothing with gloves on yet, but it's either I wear gloves or my hands hurt, so I'm just gonna wear some gloves. It's not really that bad right now, but it was like super windy earlier. Oh, and I bought actually a 3/8 like flat washer that would fit on there until I try and replicate the washer that was on there. I'm hoping that the 100 millimeter one works and that I don't have to switch to like the 90, because the 90 barely fits through everything. This goes through beautifully. Yeah, so that little bolt on the top of the alternator sticks out. The top of the alternator mounts on here, and this is for the adjustment of it. And as you tighten this, it pulls the alternator through its mount. It's actually kind of like, this is probably normal, and I'm just impressed by normal things, but it is like a engineering thing that I find pretty cool. It was like back in the day, you'd have to just like put a wrench on your alternator and crank it over and then tighten it down. Or I think my minivan used my AC compressor to tighten down. What is the power steering? I don't know. I know it used one weird bracket to tighten down something else, but anyway, this is what I got. So I'm gonna try and put all this together and make it work. So let's watch me struggle. This is my brand used alternator. This goes through the bottom here, and as you tighten it down, it pushes this through, and that actually helps line it up straight. And I didn't have this lined up straight since July when I put it together, so yeah, it just made it it ruined the bearings in it because it was like constantly twisted a little to the side. I need to go get the 3 bolts for this bracket, and then my wrenches I was using, but it's just 3 bolts and it bolts into the block. 3 bolts that are all the same. And there's my belt I bought the other day that I thought was going to fix all my problems. Alright, so how I generally do this is On the single cam stuff, if you modify it a little bit, you start losing parts, and it makes it a little easier. But you can't always just drop it straight down, so I always have to go in through here above the transmission and then guide it over. I usually take a break right there because they're heavy. That's backwards. So, yep, I'll spin it around, and then it will not drop out through the bottom. Like that's not going to happen. So I take it and I set it down, pulley side down, so that I can attach all the connectors and stuff. Yeah, my battery's dying on my stupid camera. I ended up having to jack the car up so I could get under there and put that little bolt contraption thing on there with 2 hands. But I got it all tightened up. I busted the crap out of my knuckle. I busted the ever-loving fuck out of my knuckle doing this. Busted my hand open. Well, really, I just peeled the skin back. But anyway, I'm ready to attach the positive. Oh, the key's on. So that happened. Well, as far as belt tension goes, there's no like measurement really for this. I try to get it to a point where I can like twist the belt still, but not like fully twist it, like, you know, quarter of the way around. Another measurement you can do is like pushing on the belt and seeing if you get like, I think it's 1/2 inch of deflection every foot. 1 foot span, you want to deflect about 1/2 inch, and then if it's like, you know, 2 foot span, like a long section of a circle to the belt, you want like 1 inch of deflection. So I'm going to dump this off the jack, see if it starts. It's pretty sweet. You guys got a pretty nice expedition. So I have my little battery charger here. And I don't know if you can really see it. High, it says 12.0. Car's charging. What does it say now? High and 14.5. So yeah. No rattling. It's not doing anything nefarious. So now that that is not 12 o'clock. 3:30, I have a road trip to do now. I've got to go down to Baltimore and get some Christmas presents because it is December 21st and I've put it off. So that's what I'm about to do.